to survive. We got to learn to cast a vision, and we got to be inspired and work forward that brighter and better future. And that's why I love this song, right? Guys, my name is Fermin Dan Rivera, also known as FDR2. And I am your HVAC store instructor, trainer. And I am here, guys, to help you guys really take a good look into the HVAC industry and figure out if this is something that could be good for you, if it's worth the looking into, and to just kind of give you a full view of what a HVAC career can actually do for you. All right, guys? So I'm really happy that you guys are here with me today. I am here in the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, and it is a beautiful day today. Let me just tell you, here we are in April 15th, 2023. The sun is shining, it's starting to warm up, and being that I'm in the HVAC industry, I'm looking forward to those super hot days so we can get some systems going, some system sales, some maintenances, some repairs, and we can all make money. All right, guys, so that's why you're here. You're considering getting into the HVAC industry, and you are at the perfectly right place. So with that being said, let me just kind of tell you a little bit about my story, all right? And perhaps maybe you're even exactly where I was at, 20 some odd years before. I'm not going to say exactly when that was because it's not something I'm proud of, but let me just tell you, it's been a while, okay? So my story started back in many ages ago, right? I was about 18 years old. I had just actually turned 19, and I remember, at the time I really couldn't find a job. I remember I had been working at a Ace Hardware store. I had also worked at a rental yard, and I think those were the only two jobs I had really had when I got out of high school. Now, if you've ever worked in a hardware store, you're going to realize that, unless the career path is to become store manager, and there's only one store manager there, that you're going to have to take his job in order to get there, right? And so the reality was that I didn't think I was going to be there very long, and I wasn't. Now, in those transitions in between those jobs, what ended up happening with me was that I left that job and I couldn't really find a career path, right? Here I am, I'm going to college, I'm thinking maybe I could be an engineer, but that, what was that, 4-year, 6-year pathway to become an engineer, to finally make a decent living, it was just way too far. And at the time, like I said, I had no money, I had barely had even a job, then I lost it, and I was really down in the dumps at the time. It was one of the worst times of my life, and I'm just giving you a couple of small glimpses into it. But at the time, like I said, I didn't really have any money. I think minimum wage was about $4 an hour. And so I didn't really know what I was going to do. So an uncle of mine somehow got in contact with my mom, and one day he comes over to my house and he says, "Hey, would you like to work in air conditioning?" And at this point, the air conditioning meant nothing to me. The only word that I caught was work. Do you want to work? Right? And I'm bringing this to light because I didn't even know air conditioning even existed at the time. I was like, air conditioning? What exactly is air conditioning? You know what? I don't even care. I'll take the job. So he says, well, if you want, you could come spend the night at my house, stay there for as long as you want until you're able to, kind of get on your feet, see how this career path is going to start developing you, see if you can start making some money, and then you get your own place. I completely jumped on it. His name was, is Carlos Cheto. And so he gave me, he offered me this job, and he says, feel free to come whenever you're ready. About a week later, I remember I had a pretty big fight with my dad, and what I ended up doing was I just grabbed everything in my room, I loaded up on my truck, and I just took off to the San Fernando Valley, from Riverside to the San Fernando Valley, and from one day to the next, I was in the HVAC industry. So, like I said, I didn't even know air conditioning existed. So anyway, the bottom line is I got out there, I started kind of learning a little bit, and because I had done some plumbing with my dad, years prior to that, even a little bit of roofing, some cement work. So I knew how to use hammers, I knew how to use channel locks, adjustable wrenches, drills, skill saws, sawzalls, and pipe wrenches. I knew how to use all that. And it was because of my ability to use those tools that I pretty quickly caught on into this whole, HVAC. Now, I worked with him for a little bit of time, but I got to be honest with you. My uncle didn't know how to train. I mean, he gave me the opportunity, he gave me a job, and that was all great, but he didn't know how to train. And if I didn't actually have to ask him, like, what is this? Why are we doing this? What is the point of this? If I wouldn't have continued to ask, I would have known nothing. Matter of fact, I remember one day, as I remember, he would walk by the air conditioning condensers as they ran, and as they're blowing this hot air up into the atmosphere, he would run his hands right on top of it, right? And I asked him, I said, Uncle, why do you run your hand over the air? He goes, well, I'm seeing if they're cooling properly. And I'm like, so how do you know this? And he says, well, if the air is hot, I know that it's doing its job. If it's not that hot, it might need a little bit of refrigerant or something else might be wrong. Now, that was probably about all the training I got. Okay. Now, it was pretty interesting because at the time, there was no training, there was no YouTube, there was no Google. We were still using dial-up, and it was just so difficult to really figure out what it was that I was trying to do. So I learned just from seeing what other guys were doing, whether they were doing it right or wrong, that's what they were doing, and I would follow that. And my uncle just didn't fill in any of the blanks. Needless to say, I worked with him a couple of months, and I started bouncing around from company to company, trying to figure out, where is this career path really going? Now, here's a major point that I want to share with you guys. Because I didn't see a career path, because I didn't see what the true potential of HVAC was, I didn't really take it that seriously. While I was working, I was taking night classes in the local at Pierce College and at Valley College over on, I believe it's on probably like on Oxnard and Fulton, somewhere around there, and the other one in Pierce on Winnetka. And so here I am, trying not to burn the bridge of ultimately becoming an engineer and then working in an industry, but that I did not understand the end goal. And because I did not understand that end goal, I ended up taking about 10 years too long to realize what HVAC actually could do for my life. Okay, so it wasn't literally about 10 years. One day, finally I realized that, hey, if I can actually sell jobs, if I can actually sell repairs, that I could make a good living. Nobody told me this. For 10 years, nobody told me this. Think about the whole decade I burned. Okay? Now, so then one day I realized, okay, finally, you know what? There is money to make. And so I was working for a cousin of mine in the city of Wilmington. And I asked him, I said, I get it. I'm moving into sales right now. Would you mind training me? Because I don't know anything about sales, but I do know that customers want to buy systems, and I want to be able to sell them. But I don't know how. I have no idea how any of this works. And he says, I'm going to give you some sales training. And check this out. He said, are you ready? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. Give it to me. He says, what I want you to do is that when you go see a customer, and you're going to walk the job, you're going to figure out what they want, and what you're going to do is you're going to put a price together, and you're going to imagine that you're selling that job for $1. And sell it and close it. Just pretend there is no value besides $1. Why wouldn't they buy it? And that was my first lesson in HVAC sales. Now, let me ask you, like, what does that even mean, right? I mean, what the hell does that even mean? But just to show you how far we've come, that was not sales at all. That was not a sales lesson. It was actually retarded, come to think about it. But the bottom line was that's what it was. He gave me that, and that was all my sales training. It took him about a good 30 seconds to deliver that. And after that, probably another, I would say like another 6, 7, 8 years went by before I actually got my first sales coach, sales trainer. So think about that. Here we're talking about possibly 18 years of wasted time of my own life. What a shame, right? 18 years of wasted potential of money that I did not make because I didn't have a mentor. If my uncle could have just mentored me, what may have happened? If my cousin in sales would have actually trained me and mentored me, what could have happened? The potential, right? For somebody who is willing and driven, like as driven and willing as I was. And if you don't know how willing I am, I'll share that with you at another time. But I was ready. I was looking for opportunities, but the opportunities were just not very clear. And I needed somebody to help guide me and say, hey, you know what? Look, here is the way that you want to enter HVAC. And you don't want to waste 1 year. You actually don't even want to waste 1 month. From day one, you need to have a roadmap to success, and every week be working towards that so that within 6 months you can already be making a fairly good living. And now luckily we do have a lot of coaches and trainers out there, but whatever the case may be, is that there is also still a lot of bad teachings. There's still a lot of bad mentors. There's still a lot of people that actually don't want you to do well. Then there's other people that don't know how to guide you to do well. And then you also have like a lot of places out there that are just trying to sell you their services so that once they get you to sign that thing, you're in for 20 grand. Okay? And even when you do sign with these, you're going to discover that there's still no roadmap. There is no clarity. There is no understanding exactly of how you're going to get to the very end goal for which you ended up signing up for some of these classes or courses or local community college or trade schools, vocational schools, whatever they may be, right? So if you are exactly where I was, completely lost, and you're trying to find direction, maybe you're 18 or 19 or 20 years old, you're trying to figure out, it's like, all right, I'm out of high school, life has now began, and I don't have a game plan, don't want to go to college, don't even know whether college is even worth the money and the wasting of the years, which I have my own opinion about. But here you are, you're there, you need to make some money, you got to get some money in your pocket, you're trying to move out of your parents' home, and you're trying to figure out a game plan. Now, if that's you, you're, like I said, you're exactly at the right, perfect place. So with that being said, let me just continue to go and move a little bit forward, right? So here you are, you're thinking, okay, do I get into HVAC? Well, let me just ask you a couple of questions. One, do you like to work, with your hands? If you do, then HVAC might be the industry for you. Do you like to problem solve? Do you like to think, look into electrical circuits, look into chemicals, which are refrigerants, look into mechanical things, things that are moving and doing a lot of like I said, various things, right? Because in HVAC, we talk about amperage, voltage, we look at capacitance, but we also look at refrigerants, we look at pressures, we look at static pressures, we measure in water column, and we use a lot of different instruments to measure a lot of different variables and factors, right? So this is definitely a thinking type of job, okay? And I'm just going to call it a job for now, but we're soon going to be moving into career, Okay, so here we are. We're considering. All right, so we said we definitely want to work with our hands. Now, do you want to work outdoors? Okay, let me just explain. I used to work at a warehouse. Matter of fact, now I just actually remembered. I did work at a warehouse for a few, maybe a month at some warehouse. And I'll explain that story, what I had mentioned that before. So I did work at a warehouse, and let me tell you, it was like almost like time stood still, and the hours were just so slow. Every single minute was eternal, and it just wasn't for me. Every single day I was inside this building, and all I did was put things in a box, tape it up, and then move it to a cart. Fill up another box, tape it up, move it to the cart. And this was 8 hours of this repetitive task, which just drove me nuts. Okay, so I'm not that guy. You know what the kind of guy I am? I like to be at one job site for 3 days, and then after 3 days I get bored. Then I want to go to another job site. Sometimes I want to go work at the beach down in Manhattan Beach. Then other days we're working in Torrance. Other days we're working in Rancho Palos Verdes. Other days we're working on the cliffs of the hills. Other days we're working in Long Beach at International Towers on the 20th floor, where you're able to see the Queen Mary, and to the other side you're able to see the coast all the way down to Orange County. And even though I am doing work in these environments, but it feels good to be alive while I'm doing that job, right? I don't want to be in an office. I don't want to be in there, every single day. I need a little bit of different environments. And even though sometimes it might be hot and sometimes it might be cold, but for the most part, the days go by quick like that. So if you also like to, be in a different environment constantly, then this is definitely the thing for you. The other one, as I had already mentioned, if you like thinking, problem solving, and really being able to use your mental capacity and develop that and troubleshoot and really be seen as a professional technician, then this is also a good thing. Okay, probably the right pathway for you. So if any of those three seem like this is something that you would like, then once again, I think HVAC is probably the right industry for you to get into. And the construction trades, let me just tell you another thing. It's here in Los Angeles, a lot of the homes are built in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way till just right now. But a lot of these buildings are not going anywhere. They're not going to be, all of Hollywood is an old community, probably about 100 years old. And those homes are almost historical. That means that they're not going to knock them down. They're not going to rebuild them. All they're doing is they're making them, they keep them nice. They have to conserve them. So we have to go in and install air conditioning systems into a lot of these buildings, because in order for the homeowner to knock it down, they'd have to spend $500,000, when in reality they just want to add air conditioning. They just want to upgrade the electrical systems. And when you realize this, what it means is that we have a jobs that are not going to go away. Our jobs, there's never going to be a day that you're going to be able to bring a robot, or at least not in the next 10, 20 years. Okay, you're not going to be able to bring a robot and let them go under your house, because they need to be thinking. They need to be able to flex, flexibly move. We do a lot of different type of movements. This is we need a lot of muscle dexterity as we're doing these jobs, and we need to be thinking about it. And these buildings are just set up in a way that a human hands need to be working in there. And so if you're looking for job security, there is just a ton of job security. Apart from the very fact that there's also like all this new construction, everybody wants air conditioning, everybody wants central heat, everybody wants air purification, building codes all require ventilation, and all of the other one of like say HVAC and heating, AC and heating. And so the demand right now, you guys, for qualified technicians and qualified installers in the HVAC industry, it is just, there's just not enough guys. not enough qualified guys, right?
And girls.
And girls too. Matter of fact, even on the note of girls, you know what? I would just love to see some ladies come into the industry, because you know we need more women. I think, especially as comfort consultants and also as technicians, I think the women would just fit just perfectly. And I'm going to tell you what. Most of the homeowners that make the decision when it comes to purchasing an HVAC system are the wives. So if your wife, you know, gentlemen, and listen up. If your wife says she's hot and she wants air conditioning, I'm telling you right now, you're going to get it. Okay? And for a lot of years, I tried to, you know, I didn't want to give my wife what she needed, right? But let me tell you, it becomes painful to hear them complaining, and then the kids will start picking up the complaining, and before you know it, that complaining will be multiplied. And my point is that it's driven by the woman, right? Because us men, you know, we don't need no air conditioning, men. We don't need no AC, right? We don't need no heat. We don't care how cold it is or how hot. You know, we're proud, right? At least some of us are, not all of them. But we don't, you know, we don't cave into you know, we're cavemen. We don't cave in to these demands of the flesh, right? You know, if it's hot, you know, just ignore it, right? If it's cold, you can grab a sweater. But the women, they get involved and they make us do these things that they nag, and then before you know, we have to get the AC. Now, being that women are primarily the decision makers of what is going to happen with the air conditioning, then doesn't it make sense that another woman would actually come into the home, you know, be able to build rapport together, and together purchase a system? Now, how many women do you think wouldn't prefer to buy a system from a woman than from a man? I personally think that it's got to be a lot. And that's why I do think that, at least here at Red Apple Air, here in Harbor City, I'm looking for a woman comfort consultant, because that's exactly what I think with so many women who, you know, either they spend a lot of time at home, and they're raising kids, they understand. And so women is more likely to understand the actual true needs of another woman. Now, of course, men can do it too, and we've been doing it already anyways, okay? So nothing is trying to take away from men, but we've already been doing it. But what if we could add another element with some of these women? And believe me, these women, I do believe that they're going to be selling high tickets. Okay, now, so anyways, there's a lot of opportunity in HVAC, okay? Now, if I had to look at all the construction trades, not to say anything bad about plumbing, but I don't really care too much about plumbing. And there's the S word, which is why I don't like plumbing that much. I don't want to be smelling that, right? Now, what about electrical? Electrical is cool, but it gets a little bit boring, for me, at least. Now, do I want to be doing drywall? Do I want to be doing cement, you know, stucco, framing? You know, I feel like a lot of these jobs, there's a lot of people that are already doing it that can do it, but HVAC is not a job that most people can do. Like I said, we got mechanical stuff, we got airflow, we got refrigerants. You know, you have to be very, very highly trained to be able to do this. Okay, so now, you know, kind of just moving on from that, and I think that I've made a pretty good case why HVAC is a pretty good industry. For me, once I understood the true potential, and then I ended up getting a coach, and then I ended up really executing on what they were teaching me, I was able to buy a house. I was able to, you know, raise a family, and I was able to then, with that understanding, train other people, which in itself also had a very good payout for me, helped me establishing a legacy here. And so for me, HVAC was just a lifeline, guys. Okay, it truly was a lifeline. It gave me an opportunity to do a lot of things that I just didn't know were possible. And I'm bringing this up is because, there's a lot of you guys out there who are going to be jumping around from job to job to job, just trying to figure out, all right, do I go work at Marshall's, right? Or then I'll go to Trader Joe's. Before you know it, I'll be at the gym and I'll start selling gym memberships, make some commission. Do I go sell vehicles? I mean, all those jobs, in my opinion, are good, but the skill set required for an HVAC technician is very hard to replace. You can't just fire me and then replace me with somebody tomorrow. It's much more difficult like that. So, like I said, that job security and that that ability for you to, that highly skilled professional and trade, it's hard to replace, you guys. There's a lot of value in it, and people are willing to pay a lot more money for those skills and trade and those skills basically that you will have and that you should develop if you don't already have them, right? So pretty much it's important that you understand, look, if you're 18 and 19, give it a shot. If I were you, I would actually jump in, give it a shot for a year, give it everything I got, and in the meantime, you're going to make a decent living. If you start getting better and better, then your pay is going to start increasing, and you're gonna save yourself 18 years compared to what I had to go through. Now, not every company can offer you these kind of trainings, which is probably why you're even here. You're probably thinking, well, just in case this company doesn't have it, at least I'll already have a coach and a mentor to be training me so that I could add value to my organization, which means that I'll also be making a lot more money because I'm just going to be rising that ladder inside that corporation or organization, right? And that's true, and that's very proactive if you're thinking this way. I think some of you guys have seen what the cost of some of my training programs are, and in most cases you'll probably make that money back in about 30 days, okay? Now, do you need that training? You don't. You could spend a lot more time. You could probably in 18 years you'll probably develop them just the way that I did. But the whole thing is it worth it, right? Is it worth spending so much time to try to really try to save a little bit of money now, right? It brings me to another topic. There is like maybe 3 or 4 of the technicians that are with us now at Red Apple used to work or signed up for a local trade school. I'm not gonna mention any names because that's not what this is about, right? But the bottom line is that they went to these, they've seen a video on Facebook or Instagram, and then they went to visit the facility, they looked into it, they signed up for maybe a $10,000-$15,000 program. I believe there were about 9-month programs. Then they went through all of it. They came to me, they applied with me. I seen, well, you know what, hey, at least they've taken that initiative. So then I come in, I test them. On day 1, when I test them, they scored out of 100 points, probably like around 3 points out of 100 on the test. Nothing that actually we use in the field where they even taught. As I continued to investigate a little bit more, what I discovered was that everything that had been taught, almost none of it is even relevant in the true world. I mean, they were working on ice machines when we're selling residential central systems. They're working on little freezers when we're working on selling or repairing mini splits, package units, water source, heat pumps. These are the types of systems that are everywhere. Probably about 99% of all the systems out there are some type of central split system or a central package unit or a mini split. Those are the 3 top. And all the training that they did, none of the training even involved any of those units. So to kind of wrap it up, I just wanted to give you is a career in HVAC right for you? And this has been the topic of conversation. Now, for those of you who are still going to consider it, next week I'm going to bring in some more episodes, and what I'm going to be starting to do is really start diving into what are those skills that are required give you a little bit more context. But at the same time, I think what I'm really going to do mainly is to provide the framework for what a good mindset is needed, what mindset is needed in order to achieve maximum results and to be able to recover your return on investment. Okay, what you need to know is I have the training already on what tools, how to use them, all the installation processes and all that. We have that. What you really need to also know is like, okay, do you believe you can do it? What are the pros of doing it, and what are the cons of doing it, right? Like if you think about it right now, what are the cons of you getting into the HVAC industry? Well, I don't know. I mean, you might have to spend some money on training. I guess that's a pretty big con, right? You have to spend money. But what are the pros? You're going to develop a career. You're 19 years old. If you jump into this and you jump in strongly, man, in 2 years, where are you going to be at? You're going to develop a high-paying job. You're going to be skillful. You're going to have like job security. Within 2-3 years, you're probably going to be able to land a job in any company you want, and at a really high pay, higher than people that are just getting out of college. Think about that. These people are going to be making $60,000. They're coming out of college. They're probably making about $60,000. And in 2-3 years, while they're getting out, you're already going to be in the $70,000 and probably even higher than that if you do this the right way. So those are just some of the pros and cons to think about it. That's why I really like to focus mainly on the mindset side of what is required to actually achieve those type of results. You can develop the skills, but we need to make sure you got the right mindset to be able to help you believe that you can actually achieve it. All right. Once again, guys, thank you so much for checking in over here. I hope you're finding value, and it's going to be my intention to make sure that this freaking channel helps you achieve whatever goal it is that you're hoping to put really in, or to design, right? Because we're talking about designing our own lives. When we're talking about goals, we're talking about right now in career, but we're also talking about in our family lives and how they join, and how all these careers these goals really need to be in line, all right? So once again, thank you guys so much for everything, and really looking forward to seeing you guys here in the future.